All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty radical vision of the future. I mean, a future where the fundamental rules of our world are just completely rewritten. We're going to explore a blueprint for something called an abundance economy. Just imagine a world where all the physical constraints that have shaped our cities, our farms, and our entire society for centuries just kind of dissolve.
So let's start with a big radical question. Seriously, forget about small, incremental improvements for a second. What if the cost of everything, I'm talking knowledge, energy, even making physical stuff, what if that cost just plummeted to basically zero? This isn't just some fun thought experiment. It's the potential trigger for a total redesign of civilization as we know it. And that leads us right to the core concept here, the abundance economy. You see, our entire society, how we build cities, the jobs we have, even what we value, it was all built on one giant assumption: scarcity. The idea that there's not enough land, not enough materials, not enough energy to go around. But what happens when that whole foundation just crumbles? When abundance becomes the new normal? Well, the old rule book just gets thrown out the window. It's totally obsolete.
So, where does a transformation this big even begin? Well, it starts right outside your window. Let's explore how our cities could be completely, utterly reimagined in a process you could call the Great Reclamation.
You know, the scale of the opportunity here it's just staggering. This number, 30 to 50%. That's how much land in many North American cities is currently, well, sterilized just for cars. Think about it. It's all parking lots, roads, driveways. It's unproductive, it's often pretty ugly, and it's super expensive to maintain. Now just imagine what we could do if we reclaimed all of that space.
I mean, the contrast is just so stark, right? Today, our cities are built for cars. But imagine a future where you just summon an autonomous electric pod whenever you need one. The need for your own personal parking spot, it just vanishes. Urban sprawl is no longer this inevitable thing. All that asphalt can be transformed into parks, playgrounds, community gardens, you name it. Our cities could finally shift from being places designed for moving cars to places designed for, actually living.
And that creates a totally new urban experience. Just think about it for a second. Streets could get narrower and sidewalks could get wider, making more room for people. No more giant, ugly parking lots. No more endlessly circling the block looking for a spot. When you stop designing entire cities around managing traffic, people can finally live closer to the things and the people they actually care about, not just wherever their job happens to be.
Okay, so our cities are reclaimed. What's next? Well, the next huge shift happens with something even more fundamental: our food. We're talking about moving away from this system of vast horizontal fields to something radically different.
Let's be honest, traditional agriculture is incredibly resource-intensive. It just is. The future, though, could look totally different. We're talking about things like precision fermentation, vat-grown foods, and cellular agriculture. Imagine crops grown in stacked, vertical, climate-controlled towers using super-efficient methods like hydroponics and aeroponics. It's basically a complete inversion of the old model.
And the efficiency gains here are just mind-blowing. These new methods can use anywhere from 70 to 95% less water and less land than traditional farming. That's not a small improvement, that's a revolutionary leap in how we produce food.
And the consequences of this are profound. You could culture meat and dairy directly from cells. Think about that. It means you eliminate the need for massive feedlots, for all that grazing land. The entire environmental footprint of food production just collapses. And because you can basically grow anything, anywhere, food security becomes a local, hyper-resilient thing. Suddenly, shipping basic foods across the world, it just stops making any economic sense.
So, okay, we've got new cities and new farms. But what's the invisible engine that's powering this whole transformation? It's not just about physical tech. It's about a completely new way of sharing and compounding knowledge itself. Now, this is the big, maybe kind of abstract idea, but stick with me. It's what you might call the open cloud brain. Imagine a shared, global AI that is just constantly learning, constantly improving. And here's the key part. It's not owned by any one company. Its knowledge is like a public utility, something that flows freely and accelerates innovation everywhere, for everyone, all at once.
Okay, I know that sounds a little out there, so here's how this abstract idea becomes super concrete. Imagine an AI figures out the absolute perfect ramen recipe, the ideal broth, the perfect noodle texture, all of it. Then, it just uploads that whole process to the global knowledge base, and instantly, any connected kitchen, whether it's a robot in your home or a street vendor stall, can replicate it flawlessly. Innovation stops being something that's locked away in some R&D lab. It becomes social. It becomes immediate.
And when you start to put all these pieces together, something truly fundamental starts to shift in our society. If the basics of life, we're talking food, energy, shelter, are effectively free, then our core motivation as people has to change, right? That deep-seated drive to hoard and consume, it just starts to dissolve. We can finally move away from just accumulating more stuff to accumulating experiences, relationships, and creative ideas.
And this leads us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. If we're not focused on producing and consuming more stuff anymore, then how do we even measure success? I mean, what does progress even look like in a world built on abundance?
See, our main metric right now, GDP, gross domestic product, it was designed for a world of scarcity. Its whole job is to count transactions and output, but it becomes totally meaningless when, say, a 3D printed house costs almost nothing to make, or when a little vat in your kitchen produces your dinner for pennies. It's wild, but your quality of life could be soaring while GDP is actually going down.
So, what would a new scorecard even look like? Well, instead of GDP, we might start focusing on things like gross national happiness, or the genuine progress indicator, which actually factor in things like well-being and environmental costs. We could start measuring progress by how much freedom, creativity, and connection we're enabling. Or maybe it's even simpler. We could measure it by how much time is freed up for people to just pursue what truly matters to them.
And that is the final, fundamental shift. It's a move from a society that values consumption above all else to one that values creation. In a world like that, our old scorecards for success, they just don't apply anymore. They would quietly retire, becoming relics of a past that was totally defined by scarcity.
So let's wrap up with this thought. Roads without roads, farms without fields, cities without cars. Look, these aren't just some pie-in-the-sky utopian fantasies. They are the logical conclusions of cost curves that are already plummeting. And all of this leaves us with the ultimate question. Once survival is basically a solved problem, what do we choose to build? What can we as humans truly become when scarcity is no longer the thing that defines every move we make?